What is going on, fam? Thank you for joining my session, which is titled Simplifying Nearpod with Google Slides. My name is Kyle Krieger, and I am so honored to be a part of this conference and to be able to spend some time with you this summer and really try to help you be more prepared for the 2020-21 school year, regardless of what it looks like. Now, I know that there's a lot of uncertainties, there's a lot of unknowns, but what I hope to do for you is to show you how to make what you're already doing more interactive on the digital platforms. Is really what I hope to do. And the best way to do that, I think, is through Nearpod. Now, full transparency, I do have my Nearpod shirt on. I am what is known as a Nearpod pioneer, which is an ambassador for the Nearpod platform. I coach teachers one-on-one. I do some conference speaking. I just do whatever they need to just help them out. Because I really believe in the platform and what it does for students and teachers. So a little bit about me. I am an 8th grade global studies teacher in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. If you are unfamiliar with Nearpod, you want to learn more about Nearpod, I highly recommend, if you don't already have a gold membership, right down in the bottom corner, there is a picture that gives you a code to which you can use to get 3 months of a free gold membership to Nearpod. You go to nearpod.com/redeem and you put NP-Kyle Krieger, that's my name, and you can get a 3-month gold membership. Now, that will give you the opportunity to explore a little more expansive version of Nearpod. It unlocks more lessons for free. It gives you a few more features. Now, if your school does not already have a Nearpod license, at the end of 3 months, you're going to have to pay to keep the gold membership. But I hope that you'll at least give it a try if you haven't yet. Yeah, so that way doing this. Now, I really thought about having a Nearpod session, like a really Nearpod lesson put together for you, but it wouldn't make sense because I can't go along and do it with you. But yeah, so if you're not on Nearpod, please take the time, use that code, and please feel free to share it with any teacher you know that's looking to start on Nearpod, wants to have some time to explore it. Please share that. You can share it with as many people as you want. All right, moving forward. The objective. Teachers will become more equipped to use Nearpod in their classrooms and for distance learning. I think this is super important. I talked a little bit. It is the summer of 2020, and we had the ending of the 2019-2020 school year. It was something that none of us expected, none of us had ever experienced. So during this presentation, I want to show you how and explain to you how I use Nearpod both as a distance learning platform and in my classroom. So yeah, that's the whole goal, to make you more equipped, that you could plug and play more, do more than you could prior to this session. All right, so an attention grabber. This would be the point where I would, hopefully, if we were in a room together, I would ask you to turn to your neighbor and share the answer to this question. How are you using Google Slides, PowerPoint, or Keynote in your classroom? So if you want to, instead of turning to your neighbor, or you could text a neighbor, someone else who's watching this, or some kind of message thread, how are you using it right now? And if you don't have anyone to talk to, just pause the video, write it down in your notes. All right, so I'm assuming a lot of you said we use it to take notes, we use it for our presentations, we use all of those pretty standard things. And by no means is this session trying to tell you that Google Slides is not a great tool. It is. And here are 5 reasons why it is. It's incredibly simple. It's incredibly simple, incredibly intuitive. One of the best things for me is it saves to the Google Drive, so I always know where my presentations are. And being that it's on the Google Drive, it's super easy to collaborate, especially with peers you teach with, or like in Wilkie and I's case, when we're working on presentations, it's super easy for us to collaborate. It is great for delivering content. Is great for giving information to people, and our students are super comfortable with it. At least the students I've taught over the last few years. They're very comfortable with it. They understand how to use it. I would love for them to be a little more interactive. They copy and paste a lot of it, but that's neither here nor there. So those are the reasons why Google Slides is a great tool. But Google Slides has limitations, and the biggest of them being that it doesn't allow for digital interaction with the teacher, the content, or the lesson. And I think digital interaction is a really important thing. Digitally interacting, meaning from a device a student has, they interact with the teacher. So they're responding to the teacher's question. So like the attention grabber, they would be responding to my question digitally. They would be responding to other students digitally, and they're interacting with content, whether that's videos, whether that's drawing, whether that's reading, whether that's PDFs or 3Ds or all these different things that I can show you that Nearpod does. Digital interaction is super, super important. And I'm going to explain to you why I think that is. So we have learned, I have learned a lot, but the question I'm framing right here for you is, what have we learned during the past few months of COVID crisis learning? And I use the term crisis learning because I think that's what it is. A lot of schools call it distance learning, and I don't think that's right. I don't think distance learning is the right term, because distance learning is intentional. It's set up. It has all these parameters, and we weren't prepared. A crisis happened, and we did the best we could for the learning. But it really challenged my assumptions. The biggest assumption that it challenged was my belief that as digital natives, our students should seamlessly transition to digital learning. The reality was our students struggled to engage with digital content, both in the classroom and at home. And when COVID happened and when distance learning started, all of the moments throughout my time as a teacher trying to teach digitally in the classroom, I could see all those moments where I should have seen that my kids are not great digital learners. They really aren't. And I hate to use a stereotypical example, but you give a kid technology, you ask them to do research, they go on Google, they get to the first page of Google, and as soon as whatever they're looking for is not found on the first page, they tell me that it's not there. When there are literally millions of responses to their question, if they don't find it on the first page, they don't believe it's there. And that's why digital interactions are so important. Digital interactions meaning interacting with the teacher, me, interacting with the content, interacting with the lesson, interacting with their peers. All of those are really, really important pieces. Now, we have reached the end of the Google Slides that I put together for this. So what I've done is I've basically spoken to you. I've delivered content to you. So now what I want to do is simplify and show you how you can add interaction to a presentation like this that would increase student engagement. Because Google Slides is great, but there's no real way for the student to engage digitally in the interaction. They can engage verbally, they can engage with you, you can go around, you can check what they're writing, all that stuff, but they're not engaging digitally. And we have to make clear that there's a difference. There's a delineation between engagement and digital engagement. They're not the same thing. So I'm going to close this really quick and come back to this right here. So here is the slides. Now, Nearpod has made it so simple for you to add all of the features that Nearpod offers. So here's my initial slide. All right, so here I am in my Google Slide initial presentation. To put Nearpod slides into this, all I have to do is go to add-ons. Now, I already have the Nearpod add-on, so I'm going to go over and click open Nearpod. But for you, if you have never used the Nearpod add-on, all you need to do is click this button where it says Get Add-ons, and all of these things will be available to you. Now, Nearpod does not pop up for me because I already have it. But you go in the search bar. Oh, actually, never mind. It's right there. It is totally right there. I didn't figure it out either, but right there. All you have to do is click on it, and you could add it to it. So that's what you want to do. So once you've added it, I come up to add-ons, and I click Nearpod, and I put Open Nearpod. So then what happens is next door to me, I'm going to edit this lesson. And this is telling you, wait, your lesson might have an active code, be in your public library, if you wish to make changes, all that stuff. So basically what this is saying to you is you can't present the Nearpod through Google Slides, but you can edit it through Google Slides. So I'm going to show you in a little bit that, like, after this presentation is done, if I were going to present with all the Nearpod features, I have to present it on the Nearpod platform. All right, so I'm going to edit. I'm going to edit this lesson. So here I am. So I probably would have done the same thing. I would have introduced myself, said, hey, this is this, blah, 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 blah. Here's our objective. So here is where the first place where I would probably put something different. So here's my attention grabber. So what I would want to do, and this is one of my most used features, and I use one of two for this. So first, I'm going to start with a collaborate. Collaborate is a great engagement tool for getting kids started. Attention grabbers, warm-ups, checking for understanding, all great situations to use Collaborate. So I'm going to click on Collaborate. So here's what pops up for me. I have this. It's a Collaborate tool. So right in here, I'm gonna write that question I asked you. How are you using Google Slides, PowerPoint, or Keynote? I'm going to actually Google Slides in your classroom. All right, so there's the question I'm asking you since we're talking about Google Slides. Now, what will happen is if I click Save, it will pop up with a screen that would allow kids to add their answer would look just like that. So as they're typing into their phone, into their device, they hit Enter, they save it, it pops up so you can see it. All right, so I really like the chalkboard, but I think I'm going to use the bulletin board with the push pins. So that is saved. So that's one example of how I would use an attention grabber. Another example, one that I really like that kids really get into, is draw it. So here I am. I'm going to do a draw it here next. This works really, really great if you're using any kind of tablet, iPad, or the kids are on their phones where they have the touchscreen that they can scroll. So let's just say, all right, so we're going to draw it. We're going to draw it. We're going to draw it. Let's say it's a Monday. We're coming back, and we want to draw it. Just check in on how we're doing. So draw a picture that describes your weekend. So this is totally opens it up. And let's say you want to do 2 minutes for kids to draw. All right, so we're going to put 2 minutes. We're going to add this 2-minute timer. Bam. So starting off the class, all right, kids have opened up the session. Boom, 2 minutes. How was your weekend? Draw a picture for your weekend. Got it. Perfect. And the best part about this is the slide falls right in line with the Google Slides that are already there. So as you're doing this, as you're getting started, I would recommend, especially if you have Google Slides already, take a Google Slide presentation that's already done, one you've already used, use the add-on and just find spots to plug stuff in. This is not reinventing the wheel. I'm trying to simplify this for you so you can add things that make sense. All right, great. So we've got that. So what I'd like to do now is just take a second to show you the different features, the different things that you can add through the Nearpod platform. So starting with just audio, just plain audio. You can add an audio clip, whether it's a podcast or an audio clip you take from the internet. BBC video, very straightforward. Collaborate and draw it, I showed you already. And I will show you what those will look like in a presentation here in a little bit. Field trip is super cool. So many different places, so many different things you can do. And especially with the tablets or the phones or the iPads. The VR works super cool. I would show you that. It doesn't work great with my computer, but that's a super cool feature that I'd hope you'd play with. Vocabulary is fun. It's hilarious. It's entertaining. Vocabulary, educational videos set to hip hop music and rhyme. It's awesome. Fill in the blank. Flipgrid is another platform that they've integrated with, in which you can put out a video and have the students respond with video. If you're not familiar with Flipgrid, it's a great platform as well. Graphing calculator, set up matching pairs. You can set up a memory test. There's a ton of Nearpod 3D. I'm gonna hopefully show you one of those here in a little bit. Open-ended question, PDF, poll, quiz, simulation, slideshow, sway, video, and web content. But this one right here, I'm not going to show you because it wouldn't really work for this. Time to climb is a student favorite. So basically, it would be something you could use at the end of a class as a check for understanding. So you put in your 5 questions that you want answered by the end of class. Checking, students checking for understanding. But what it does is it makes it into a game where students get points for correct answers and for speed. They love it. They get super into it. It's really, it's kind of like a Kahoot style game, but within this platform, it's really, really great. So those are just a few of the ones. I can't show you them all because I don't have the time and I don't want to overwhelm you because again, I'm just trying to show you how to simplify Nearpod and add it to things you're already doing to increase student engagement. So we've seen collaborate, we've seen draw. So let's move on. So we're to this side. We were just delivering information, just talking about the Google Slide platform, talking about content. So let's just say you wanted to add in a poll question. So, all right, poll question. So right here, talking about Google Slides. So let's just say you wanted to ask. So now we're shifting to Nearpod. How familiar are you with the Nearpod platform? All right, so so you are a novice. You could be an intermediate, and you could be an expert. All right, so this would be where I would add you, or this would be a presentation for you. Let's say you were my students. I was asking you this question. That would be all right. It's super fun as well because you can add videos or media or other different things to this to make it more interesting. I'm just showing you the basics. So now we've got our poll question. So this could also be something that you would use right at the start. A lot of these I use for the beginnings and the end of lessons. The collaborates, the draw, it's the polls, the quizzes. But then I want to show you the other ones that I would use in a lesson to deliver content. Because you can still deliver content through Nearpod in really interesting ways. So now we've got so we've seen draw, we've seen collaborate, we've seen a poll. So let's come here and let's just say we're back to this last slide talking about our assumptions. So let's say I wanted to check understanding with my students and use an open-ended question. So you are an English teacher and you want your students to write a summary of a passage from Macbeth. I don't know, whatever it might be. This is a great spot to where you could add that media. You could add a video. You could add a picture, a little screenshot of a paragraph, and ask them to summarize it. So let's just say, here's the question I would ask you: what has been the biggest challenge of crisis learning for your students? I would ask you this, and this would give you the open-ended, write as much or as little as you want, the opportunity to really do that, which is really important, and it gives students a chance to expand. So we've done this. So these are all ways that I would either check for understanding, check for clarity at the start of a lesson, or check for clarity at the end of a lesson. Now there is the quiz, which is really super straightforward. And the best thing about it is if you plug in the quiz and you plug in the right answers, when your students are doing it, it will grade it for you and give you a percentage, which is super awesome. So let's just say we wanted to shift over to content delivery. So let's say you're an 8th grade teacher like me, and you want your students to, let's say you're talking about the Confederate landmarks, Confederate statues, and what's going on, whether they should come down, what they actually symbolize. So let's say we want to add a web content. And let's say we want to make sure our kids go to a website and use a website that we know is legitimate. So let's just say I want my students to study Confederate monuments, but I want them to go to the National Archives. So if I put in archives.gov in my presentation, my students will be able to click directly out from the presentation to the National Archives and do that research. That's one way to deliver content. And rather than with Google Slides, your students are interacting with that information. So in here it pops up. Here I've got it. I know it's the National Archives. Let's just say, for example, again, I am a social studies teacher, and we're studying U.S. history. We're talking about Gettysburg, and I want to have my students read a PDF where they can go in and they can annotate, they can highlight. You can ask them to do all those things you would want them to do if they were reading something on a paper right in front of them. So I'm going to upload a document, transcript of Gettysburg, and it should here in just a moment pop up, yep, with my transcript of Gettysburg. All right, I want to show you one more way to deliver content. Now, I feel like I haven't been able, or haven't really felt like I need to like walk you through how to add all these different things. I feel like I'm showing you, and I think you're all capable of doing this, but I haven't said this yet. If you're starting on Nearpod and you're struggling, you have questions, email me, send me a DM. I will help you. I'll jump on a Zoom, a Google Meet, I'll email, text, whatever you want me to do. So I know I'm running through this quickly, but I am because I've got a short time window to get this done. But yes, so I'm just trying to show you how simple it is to add Nearpod to what you're doing. So one more, I want to show you the 3D option because I think it's just really cool. Field trip and 3D are both really awesome, but I'm going to show you 3D because I really like 3D. Castle, the Leaning Tower, the Colosseum, the Sphinx, the Parthenon. How about we just take a look at the Colosseum? All right, so we're going to add the Colosseum in here, and it'll give us a 3D representation of the Colosseum. As we're doing, we have all of these things, and now you feel like you've taken your Google Slide presentation that was good before, but now it's got all these interactive things, and you want to see what it looks like. Here's what it would look like. Once you got this, you hit save and go to Nearpod. Save and go to Nearpod, and this will. All right, so here's my lesson. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the preview, and then I'm going to explain student paced, live lesson versus live lesson, and then we'll be done. So, all right, previewing this. All right, preview. Let's make it full screen as soon as I get it. All right, so when you are presenting, this is what it looked like. The live lesson is a lesson that you would teach in a classroom or when you had your students all together digitally, and you would control the pace of it. So they can't go forward unless you send them forward. Student pace means the kids can do it on their own time and at their own pace. I have used student paced both for in the classroom and for distance learning, and they both work great. It just depends on what the lesson is. Like if I'm doing reviews for a test or something like that, I usually do student paced because then the students can work at their own time and do their own thing. But all right, so here's what it would look like. Their initial one, objective, great, is what it looks like. So the slides in Nearpod that you create in Google Slides look the exact same. So you have those great Google Slides templates that look really cool depending on which one you really like, and it still will look the same. All right, so now we're getting to the Google Slides. So right here, if you were a student, if you were my student and I had this open to you you would click right in there. In the bottom, you would say, how I'm using Google Slides to have my students put together presentations. You click post, and it'll be a little push pin right there, and you can all see it. Now, there's a feature in Nearpod where you can take student names off of the screen, which I think is good at times, because if you teach middle school like I do, they kind of get into this, oh, if you like mine, I'll like yours, and it turns into a whole thing. But and beware that students will find GIFs and memes and stuff. So just be very explicit about what the directions are. So that's what this would look like. We would populate it with all the little push pins of people's answers. So here, if you were the student, you would be able to click all over in here. You would be able to draw and say, oh, here I am. My weekend was, let's change the color. Let's change the color to yellow. My weekend was filled with sunshine. And I am such a great drawer. I love it so much. Or you could say my weekend was filled with spiders if you were like my fiance. Sunshine. Yay, let's make it really bright sunshine. Hey, all right, we're happy. So that's what the students would do, and they would be able to post that. So that's how that would work. And once students have posted, you can click on one of their drawings, and it'll pop up in a little box with arrows, so you can click forward and show everybody's drawings if you want to do, so kids are seeing their work. And that's where that interaction piece comes in, because kids are not only seeing their work on the screen, they're seeing the work of others, and they're getting to talk about what they did and what they said. So it's a really powerful tool. All right, so here's my slide again, looks the same. So the poll question coming up, how familiar are with the Nearpod platform? As soon as people started clicking answers, like the percentages of who, how many people answered this, that, or the other would pop up, and kids can see real time, where they're at. It kind of reminds me of when you would do the 5 fingers, like from 1 to 5, how good do you feel about the lesson, or the thumbs up from this to that. It's the digital equivalent of that. All right, another slide. Okay, so open-ended question. And the open-ended question looks a lot like the draw it, and it functions the same, where you can click on one answer and then you can click through to read everybody's answers, just so everybody gets seen. And that's that interaction. That's that digital interaction piece that's so important. All right, so if you were a student, you would be able to click just like this. If I click on this, it will go and it will open up. Oh, shoot, it should have. Sorry. Well, if you were a student in the presentation, it would open up the National Archives page. I didn't realize I was going to do that. So I thought that would click to open that up. But it'll open up, they'll be right there to the National Archives page. And it's really good, especially if you want to make sure your kids are doing research on verified sites that are verified information, because we know that, and this is kind of a soapbox moment for me, but there's a ton of information out there that is illegitimate, that comes from a lot of places, and our kids are having to sort through it every day. And it's our job to really make sure that they are understanding the need to verify and check points and all of that stuff, to make sure that the research they're doing, the information they're getting, is credible and relevant. Okay. We could, if you want to, spend the next 9 minutes watching the highlights of the Packers win the last Super Bowl, but it's really nice. And when you do student paced versus teacher paced, it'll give you the opportunity to click whether you want to control the video or have students control it, either way. And I'm hoping, all right, so here it is again, the PDF. Put right up there. The kids can see it right in front of them. They can do the highlighting, and they can do the annotation just like you want them to, just like they want on a piece of paper. And finally, I'm hoping, yes, it does work. So this is the 3D. So I think it's super cool, especially as a history teacher, when you're going to certain places, whether it's, the Coliseum or wherever. It gives us the opportunity to really like show students historical places. I'm kind of in love with this Greek and Roman. So it's just a super cool situation where our kids have the opportunity. I gotta get out of it. All right, so and then I'm coming back. All right, so we've got that. Now, that would be the end of what those things would look like. So coming back here, exit this. So that's what the lesson would look like. And again, I encourage you as you're getting started on this, take a Google Slides lesson that's already done and just try to plug and play things. I changed a six slide Google slide presentation to 13 or 14 slides. And granted, they're not all exactly related to what I said, but what I wanted to do is just show you how simple it can be to turn a content presentation into an engagement presentation by taking Google Slides and moving it to Nearpod. So first off, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being in this profession with me. I think we are learning every day how important our jobs are and how important it is that we show up and we are who we are. And the fact that you're here learning and growing means the world to me to be in this profession with you. Secondly, if you are really exploring Nearpod and you're struggling, send me an email, send me a DM, whatever it is. I will do whatever I can to help you sort through it and help you get capable and be prepared to do this with your kids, because I believe in the platform. I really do. And thirdly, I hope that you're taking time this summer to think about yourself, to get yourself ready and be prepared for the unknown, because the fall is going to be the unknown. The school year is going to be the unknown. But I want to say unequivocally that we are capable, and I know that you're going to go out and do the best you can for your kids, and just stay focused on that. So with that, again, thank you for spending some time with me here this summer. Please reach out. Please let me know anything I can do, whether it's with Nearpod or you want our podcast or our YouTube or PD,